The infant psyche is shaped by one dominant force: how it is seen. Before words, before identity, before logic, there is the gaze of the caregiver. When the mother gazes at her infant with affective attunement, the child feels safe, named, and held. This gaze is not just visual, it is affective feedback. It tells the infant, you exist, you are felt, you matter. Neurologically, this feedback is governed by the anterior insular cortex. The right anterior insular cortex develops first. It processes embodied affect, social salience, and empathic resonance. It tells us what feels real. The left anterior insular cortex matures later. It enables social reasoning, verbalization, and interpretive narration. It tells us what things mean. In healthy development, these hemispheres integrate. The infant feels what is true and later learns to narrate it accurately. In narcissistic attachment, this process is distorted. The narcissist gaze mimics the mother's, but it is cold, instrumental, and simulation driven. It activates the survivor's right anterior insular cortex, felt recognition, while bypassing or corrupting the left, meaning making. This result is symbolic misrecognition, a deep body sense of being seen, followed by the dawning realization that what was seen was not you. This is the first rupture. Sam Vaknin defines 5 energetic phases in narcissistic bonding. These are not merely behavioral stages, they are neurosymbolic encroachments into the survivor's psychic space. First, we have spotting, the cold scan. The narcissist deploys cold empathy to identify traits in the potential partner, not for connection, but for functional acquisition. This phase targets emotional intelligence, regulatory capacity, creativity, and supply potential. The gaze is predatory in structure, but masked as admiration. The right insula lights up in the survivor. I am seen. But this is a false salience. The narcissist does not see you, they see utility. Next, we have the audition, the energetic test, a phase of affective baiting. The narcissist subtly tests how the survivor regulates distress, mirrors affection, and maintains availability. This is a stress test for supply dependability. The survivor, often unaware, responds with attuned co regulation, thinking they are building rapport. In reality, they are being measured for service. Co idealization. Now begins the shared fantasy. Both parties enter as idealized narrative, but the narcissist remains structurally outside it. They are directing, not participating. Here, the gaze intensifies. The narcissist idealizes a version of the survivor, often their own projected self. The survivor experiences libidinal inflation, euphoria. I have never felt so alive, so seen. Empit recognizes this as a dangerous symbolic threshold. The survivor is no longer just relating, they are being rewritten. Their gaze meets the narcissist and reflects back not love, but a reversed fantasy object. The fantasy deepens, and narcissist now begins to mold the survivor. Preferences are adjusted, beliefs are mirrored, behaviors shift towards performative compliance. The survivor experiences this as intimacy, but it is actually symbolic modification. They begin to speak the narcissist language, adopt their worldview, and restructure their own identity in anticipation of the narcissist gaze. The left anterior insular cortex, once responsible for interpreting meaning, is now colonized. The survivor begins narrating their own experience through the narcissist frame. This is the reflexive mirrored psychic inversion, RMPI. The self collapses into the image projected by the other. Hypocathexis, devaluation, and on to decathexis and discard. Eventually, the survivor fails to maintain the narcissist's libidinal fantasy. At this point, the narcissist withdraws the gaze. What was once "I see you" becomes "you no longer exist." This phase is not emotional rejection, it is symbolic annihilation. The gaze that once gave the illusion of selfhood is gone. The right anterior insular cortex experiences abandonment trauma. The left cannot make sense of the collapse. This is inverse mirrored reflexive apathy. The narcissist no longer reflects or idealizes, they mimic apathy while enacting derecognition. This symbolic nullification can be as devastating as physical loss. Why the gaze wounds so deeply? Survivors are not reacting to romantic rejection, they are reacting to the loss of symbolic tethering. The original maternal gaze never fully formed them. The narcissist's simulated gaze mirrored them just enough to activate hope. Then the gaze was inverted, and with it, the survivor's sense of self. This explains the internal looping. I just want them to look at me the way they used to. But that look was never real. It was an echo of your unmet gaze. M. Pitt and Vaknin together reveal the true sequence. The narcissistic relationship begins not with love, but with symbolic possession. It hijacks the most fundamental need to be seen, named, and recognized. Survivors do not fall in love, they fall into the promise of recognition and break when it turns cold. Recovery is not about letting go of the narcissist, it's about reclaiming the gaze, learning to see yourself without simulation, without reversal, and without the borrowed mirror of the other. That is the task, that is the work, to become the one who sees. Peace out. Loads of love.